RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a phenomenal day. As always, right? It would be no other way I'd like to have it for everybody. Kind of why I do a lot of these shows for us, right? So it's Dan RadioStyle doing another video for you. And me, I guess. I get a lot out of these too, frankly. You know, they say the 4 ways you learn something, right, is you hear it, you see it, you do it, but then the 4th level is actually teaching how to do it. So you guys are benefiting me as well. This is a win-win-win-win-win. Anyway, yes, so Dan RadioStyle, please subscribe, share the video if you like it, and all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Having a lot of fun doing this, and certainly trying to build an audience. That makes a big difference, right? We're calling this one Imagining is Causation, and I think that's a very, very important point. Now, so that friend of mine, Agnes, and I'm giving her kudos on this one again, even though I didn't necessarily watch a video to spark this particular one, but it's that Goddard book that she's been talking about, and I actually bought it months ago, and actually have started reading it. And her and I are actually probably going to try to get together and co-create some sort of video here down the road. So that's also partially why I'm reading this Goddard information. It's a big deal with her, but to kind of quote her, and I agree 100%, he is like a master at this imagination stuff. And he died back in the 70s, but this guy was very, very successful. And so what he's talking about is really right on the money. So really trying to just bring some extra points forwards. I've been doing the law of attraction stuff, and I'm still really into that. But this Goddard information is huge. So imagination is causation. Very, very big deal. That, of course, was Daydream Believer by the Monkees. And I will be going out with an OMD song called Dreaming. And that stands for Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, if that matters at all to you. All right, so causation, important stuff. Imagination really is what spurs our reality, and really the theory, and I agree with it, so I mean I can't call it anything more than a theory, but I've certainly seen evidence of it, so I think it's closer to a law, but whatever. But really, things don't exist without them being in imagination first. And when the imagination is lost, meaning when you stop thinking about it, when you stop holding it in your mind, or much like I was talking about in my last show, if you're no longer living in that end, in that reality actually starts to fade. So think about relationships, even yours or people you know, that have ended. And a lot of it sometimes is because you no longer think about you and that person as a couple, and you start thinking outward and beyond in a reality that exists without them. And that, again, begins the creation process of that reality. So really, imagination is the key, focus, cornerstone, the root, if you will, of this entire process. Now, one real common question, and I even got it, a couple of these got shot out to me on Instagram, but why don't I have this now, right? I've been doing all this stuff. I'm doing all these things. Why don't I have it now? What's going on? This is ridiculous, right? I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and it's not working. Something's wrong. It's broken. You're lying to me. Well, one thing that's super important when it really comes down into this imagination thing, when you really start to do this, and this is kind of what this whole show's about, when you really start to do this, you have to start paying attention to your thoughts. You have to start paying attention to your sponsoring thoughts, for that matter. But really, what are you thinking? What are you kind of holding as truths while you're trying to manifest this dream? So one really, really good example I was kind of thinking of is a lot of times we will mentally sabotage ourselves. And we don't necessarily realize we're doing it. And sometimes this mental sabotage can be a week prior to the incident occurring, right? So maybe it was last week I was thinking something crazy, and right now I'm experiencing it, and I'm like, well, this isn't what I was thinking about. Just this morning I was talking about, or thinking about, and dreaming about, and imagining how it wasn't this way. Sometimes we have to actually look back at some of our sponsoring thoughts. A couple great examples that I really think comes into play, and I even catch myself doing this sometimes. But you know how there's that traffic signal that's always red? It's always red when you get to it, right? It's always red. You hear what I'm saying? That's why. Or sometimes you might say something in regards to a relationship, right? And you're trying really hard to change this relationship, and you're dreaming and you're imagining this new relationship, and you're living in the end of this new relationship where the things are different between you and your partner. But they always do something. There's something they always do that frustrates you. They leave their socks out. They leave the toothpaste cap off. Whatever the case is, they always do it. That's the thought that you need to pay attention to and change. So you keep imagining, that's great, but you've got to stop doing the little sabotaging thoughts. Now, on the converse of that, right? If there's things that have been working out in your life, and there's times where you can just think, wow, everything is just going great. Everything's coming into play. Everything's working exactly as it's supposed to right now. Look back at the thoughts you were having regarding that. That's the causation. That's the secret. That's why you're experiencing that right now. Has nothing to do with anything else. Nothing outside of you. Everything starts from within us and then comes outside of us. It starts inside and then comes outside. So anything you're experiencing is 100% you. So if something's weird and you're doing the efforts but you're not quite seeing the results, look back at some of the thoughts. I guarantee you there's something in there. And this is all up to us. This is where we need to learn to master this. Now, on that same exact point that I was just making, there's different levels for all of us, for where we're at, right? So if you're someone that's really, really new to this, all right, you're super new to this, you haven't been doing this much at all, but you're this person, I will say a lot of spiritual light workers, one of the first things that they start going for is money. Gobs and gobs of money. I want to be a billionaire, and I'm going to have money, and it's going to be raining on me wherever I go, and sometimes it'll be coins, but they'll be silver dollars, but they hurt when they hit my head. It's like, hey, it hurts, but it's money. So I love it. Yeah, okay, that's great. You can have money, but there are going to be a lot of sponsoring thoughts, first off, that you probably have to deprogram yourself. But on top of that, if you're really new to this, start a little simpler. Some of the easy things to start with. Seriously, if you need to get some confidence in this process. That's all it is. You need to start to be able to see a result and relate it back to the cause. Relate it back to, what was I imagining? What was I thinking about? So when you relate it back to that, a great one, traffic signals. You can make it green lights for you all the time. You know that one that you always think is red? Well, start making it green. Start turning it green on you. Or another great one, parking places. Going down to the mall or some shopping center that's always full. It's always full every time I go down there and never get a parking place, right? Sponsoring thoughts. Got to keep these in mind. Imagine it differently this time. Imagine someone pulling out as you're driving in. They leave that spot perfectly for you. And of course, another really, really good one is maybe there's someone you haven't seen in a while, but certainly someone that you could bump into. Imagine that. Imagine bumping into them. Maybe at the Starbucks, maybe at wherever you go, maybe at the grocery store, maybe at the park, maybe the kids, something or other, right? Imagine bumping into them. Imagine the conversations you'll have. Hear it, see it, smell it. Smell the perfume or the cologne they might be wearing. Whatever the case is, imagine that and watch what happens. I'm not kidding you. You will trip out on how this works. This is how you build your confidence. Now, of course, if you're more in the intermediate phase, you might need to use a little help, maybe kick it down a notch from where you're at. This is kind of more where I'm at right now. I'll be honest. Today, I was in my car and I was dreaming and I was imagining really my perfect home, my dream home, right? And I was in the master bedroom because that's just like a bitchin' room, and I want an awesome master bathroom and a really, really sweet like walk-in closet, right? And all that. So I'm imagining it. But and I had a bunch of it laid out, but at one, I was having a hard time visualizing the view that I could see out my window. And I was having a hard time figuring out where things were relative to like my bed and relative to things like that. So again, I'm kind of more in the intermediate phase. So what I did today is I literally went online and started downloading floor plans. I started downloading pictures that are like top down so I could really get an idea and find one. It's like, yeah, that's basically the floor plan that I was trying to imagine. So with a little help, a little visual help, that's going to help me imagine that scenario more correctly. So again, if you're in that intermediate phase, get some help. Get a couple resources to help you out. Now, one thing I've talked about before too is, put them in your little dream journal, your little guide, and you have images and pictures of it. I don't know if I've got anything in here that's big enough to, here was a vacation place I wanted to go, right? So like, get a good picture in there that's a good image, and that'll really, truly help you build that out. And if you're advanced, you don't need me, right? You already know how to do this. You're a master at it. You got that awesome, maybe you're an artist, right? You can just imagine stuff to the perfect detail. You're set. So just keep imagining the things that you are looking to manifest, whatever it is, house, car, relationship, friends, money, whatever it is, imagine how it would be when you have what you're seeking. If it's money and you're just so rich, the big question that a lot of people ask, I can't remember the dude's name, but he does all the speeches. Anyway, he talks about it frequently. Imagine what you would do if money was not an issue. that's really where you're coming. If you're trying to manifest money, that's really where you're coming at it from is, what am I going to do if money's not an issue? Because money's not an issue when you have money. So imagine, what would you be doing? What would your free time? For me, I'd probably be doing more of this type of stuff. I'd be having a blast. I'd be traveling. I'd be going to restaurants occasionally. There'd be a lot of things that I'd be doing. Too short or too many to mention in this particular video, but that's the kind of stuff that really, really need to work towards. So the key takeaway from where we're at right now is give yourself a little bit of practice, very important, maybe 5 minutes a day, right? 5 minutes a day, wherever's a good place where you really have 5 minutes, where you're sitting at that traffic light that's always red. While you're sitting there, imagine some cool stuff. And if you're a beginner, imagine that light being green tomorrow, right? Give yourself a little practice, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Really, 5 minutes a day is a huge start. And then maybe before you go to bed, start to imagine what it's like to be in that place where you've already got what you want. You already feel it, you smell it, you taste it. Use your senses. Someone in the book, they talked about imagine smelling a rose. So try this. Try to imagine smelling a rose. And can you actually smell the sweetness of the rose? And this was one that made me stoked. I was like, yeah, I actually can smell the rose. So again, that's not even real, but yet it is. It's real enough to where you're picking up a scent within your imagination. And that is how you make these things happen. Stay on RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is enjoying themselves, and certainly I hope you're liking what I'm doing. If you're enjoying this, please share. Maybe if you got a friend or something, you're like, dude, check this guy out. He's got some good stuff to say, and I really do think I've got some decent stuff to say. So give it a go. And Yes, I'm gonna put her in the show notes, so please check her out too. She's really awesome, and at some point, her and I are gonna do a little cross-pollination, as I like to call it. We're going to get together and we're going to do some cool stuff together. And I think it's going to benefit a lot of people, the fact that she's really good at what she's doing. And I've kind of got a fresh, different sort of perspective that's it's coming from where I'm coming from, right? So it's a lot of good stuff. So Dan Radio Style, please subscribe. If you need to, contact me at spiritradiodanstyle@gmail.com. And of course, we're going to be going out with a little OMD dreaming.